Welcome to Cafe Stories, where every tale is a mystery waiting to unfold. A world of secrets, intrigue, and unforgettable adventures. Grab your coffee, stay curious, and lose yourself in the thrill of the unknown. Tonight, we begin. Arsène Lupin and the twin mirrors of Venice's ghostly carnival. Let the mystery begin. Chapter 1. The carnival's veil Venice, shrouded in mist and mystery, pulses with the energy of carnival.
Masks glint under lantern light, laughter echoes through narrow alleys, but beneath the revelry, something darker stirs. A theft, impossible, audacious, has shaken the city. Arsène Lupin, gentleman thief and master of deception, finds himself
at the center of the intrigue. A cryptic invitation delivered by gondolier bears only 5 words. Find the twin mirrors if you dare. A challenge, a game. And Lupin never declines. The night air carries the scent of salt and old stone. The toll of midnight bells reverberates across the Grand Canal. Somewhere, an unseen adversary watches, waiting. The spectre of Venice, a legend whispered in fear, has already taken 1 mirror. The other remains hidden, a key to a long-buried secret. The game has begun. In this city of masks and illusions, nothing is as it seems. Venice slumbers beneath a thick veil of mist, its canals winding like veins through a body steeped in centuries of secrets. The Grand Carnival is in full swing, a spectacle of gilded masks, flickering torches, and whispered intrigues. Laughter echoes against the facades of crumbling palazzos. Gondolas drift lazily beneath arched stone bridges, and the scent of spiced wine lingers in the cold night air. But beneath the festival's grand illusion of merriment, something darker moves, unseen yet ever-present, like a shadow slipping between the cracks of reality. For Arsène Lupin, the night is more than mere celebration. It is the opening act of a game yet to reveal its stakes. A challenge has been laid before him, as cryptic as it is irresistible. The note had arrived in the most theatrical of manners, slipped between the folds of a silk napkin at an exclusive masquerade ball. 5 words inked in a hand, both deliberate and taunting. Find the twin mirrors if you dare. No name, no insignia, no hint of the sender's identity, only the weight of an unsolved mystery pressing against Lupin's ever-curious mind. He has encountered many riddles in his time, each more complex than the last, but something about this message unsettles him. The twin mirrors, objects spoken of only in hushed rumors, are said to hold a secret so dangerous that even the most ruthless criminals refuse to seek them. But Lupin is no ordinary thief, a master of disguise, deception, and deduction. He has stolen the crown jewels of England, vanished from locked rooms, and outwitted the greatest detectives. He does not steal for wealth or greed, but for the thrill of the impossible, the artistry of the perfect crime. And now someone has invited him into a game he did not design, one with rules yet to be written. His first lead takes him to Mireille Fontaine, an art historian with an eye for forgeries and an ear for forgotten legends. Once a respected curator at the Louvre, she now operates in the shadows, trading in lost artifacts, stolen masterpieces, and knowledge that should have been buried with time. Her Venice apartment, tucked away near the Rialto, is an elegant contradiction, a sanctuary of high culture in the heart of a city teeming with secrets. Ancient manuscripts line the bookshelves, golden candelabras cast flickering light across velvet drapes, and the air carries the faint aroma of aged parchment and expensive perfume. Lupin watches as Mireille examines the note, her fingers tracing the ink with the familiarity of someone who recognizes a ghost from the past. The twin mirrors of Venice, she murmurs, setting the paper down carefully. Lupin, do you realize what you are chasing? She speaks of an old tale one nearly lost to time. The mirrors, she says, were crafted in the 16th century by a Venetian alchemist who dabbled in secrets meant for neither kings nor common men. The first mirror reveals a truth unseen by the naked eye. The second, when placed alongside its twin, completes a cipher, one that unlocks a secret powerful enough to alter history. But the mirrors were separated centuries ago, hidden to ensure they were never used together. Many had tried to find them,
None had ever returned. Lupin listens, absorbing every word, but before he can speak, he feels it. A presence. At the edge of the candlelit room, past the heavy curtains, a masked figure stands watching. Their posture is rigid, their mask devoid of expression. The moment Lupin shifts his gaze, they vanish into the night, soundless, weightless, like a phantom dissolving into mist. A warning.
A hunter's first move. The game has begun. Chapter 2. Whispers in the Shadows. Venice's Grand Carnival is a spectacle of colour and deception, where truth is masked behind layers of silk, gold, and illusion. The labyrinthine streets pulse with energy as masked figures waltz through narrow alleys, laughter and music swirling like ghosts in the fog. It is a city designed for those who wish to disappear. A haven for the cunning, the desperate, and those who have learned to make the shadows their ally. For Arsène Lupin, the city's chaos is an opportunity. The note, the legend of the twin mirrors, and the phantom observer in Mireille's apartment have set the stage. Now he must make his next move. But he is not alone. Somewhere in the crowd, unseen yet inevitable, Inspector Leone Vittori moves with quiet determination. A man of calculated precision, Leone has spent years tracking Lupin's exploits, never quite close enough to catch him, but always near enough to remind the thief that the chase is never over. A Venetian by birth, Leone knows this city better than most, its hidden passages, its forgotten histories, its secrets buried beneath layers of time. Tonight he patrols the festival not as a celebrant, but as a predator, watching for the flicker of a familiar shadow. Lupin, however, is far too seasoned to be careless. He has assumed a new identity, blending into the masquerade as Count Sébastien de Rochefort, an aristocrat with a taste for fine art and finer scandals. Dressed in a dark emerald tailcoat and a silver half-mask, he moves effortlessly through the revelers, each step bringing him closer to his true objective, the House of the Red Lanterns. The establishment is both infamous and exclusive, a den of whispered confessions, forbidden transactions, and secrets worth more than gold. Behind its beaded curtains and perfumed air, deals are struck, names are traded, and those who know too much often vanish without a trace. If the twin mirrors are more than myth, someone here will know where to begin the search. Inside, the air is thick with smoke and intrigue. Courtesans in gilded masks lean over velvet cushions, whispering seductions and secrets to those willing to pay. Dice rattle against mahogany tables, coins exchange hands, and a lone violinist plays a haunting melody that seems to stretch time itself. Lupin's attention sharpens as he spots his target, a man in a midnight blue mask, seated in the farthest corner, his gloved fingers tracing the rim of a crystal goblet. Known only as Il Corvo, the Raven, he is a broker of information, a man who trades in the whispers of Venice's underbelly. If the mirrors are real, Il Corvo will know. But before Lupin can approach, the atmosphere shifts. The music falters. A hush spreads across the room, subtle but undeniable. Conversations stall, hands pause mid-bet, and eyes dart toward the entrance. A new arrival. The figure is clad in white and gold, a Pierrot mask concealing their face, their presence commanding, without a single word. Something about them is unsettling. Not their attire nor their posture, but the way the very air seems to tighten in their presence. Then, without looking, they place an envelope on the table nearest them. A deliberate motion. A message left in plain sight, meant for a particular set of eyes. Lupin watches as a nervous hand reaches for it. The man reading it turns pale. He barely has time to rise before the Pierrot figure tilts their head and vanishes into the crowd as if they were never there. The man stands abruptly, his breathing unsteady. Then, as if struck by realization, he bolts for the exit. Lupin's
instincts kick in. The game is shifting once more, its players revealing themselves piece by piece.
Without hesitation, he follows. Outside, the night is colder than before. The chase begins. Venice, a city of reflections, distorts reality like ripples in its endless canals. The Grand Carnival, with its shimmering masks and decadent illusions, conceals more than mere faces. It hides intentions, disguises enemies, and cloaks the truth beneath layers of silk and pretense. Tonight, Arsène Lupin is both hunter and hunted, slipping between personas as effortlessly as the tide shifts beneath the moon. The chase through the twisting alleys unfolds in a rhythm dictated by shadow and light. The man who fled the House of the Red Lanterns, Alessandro Moretti, a known smuggler with connections to Venice's criminal elite, stumbles through the fog-drenched pathways, panic etched in his every motion. Whatever message he received from the Pierrot figure has shaken him to his core. Lupin follows, silent as a phantom, his own heartbeat steady despite the urgency of the moment. He has played this game before. Fear makes men careless, and a careless man reveals far more than he intends. Moretti weaves through side streets, knocking into costumed revelers, his breath ragged, his hands trembling. Then, a sudden break in the silence. A splash, a struggle. A cry choked by the night. Lupin halts, eyes narrowing as he steps closer to the canal's edge. Moretti is gone. Only the ripples remain, spreading outward, consuming whatever brief existence he held mere moments ago. A clean kill. Too clean. Lupin is no stranger to death, but this is something else. A warning. An execution carried out with a precision that suggests intent rather than desperation. He studies the water, his mind assembling possibilities, considering who might have been fast enough, silent enough, to remove Moretti so efficiently. Then a flicker of movement in the periphery, a shadow gliding through the mist. Watching. Waiting. Lupin does not react immediately. Instead, he allows his gaze to wander, feigning casual disinterest even as his senses sharpen. Whoever is observing him wants him to know it. This is not the work of a common assassin nor a simple rival looking to eliminate competition. This is something else entirely. The presence lingers for a moment longer before vanishing into the maze of the city, leaving behind only questions. Moretti is dead, his message lost, and yet Lupin senses that his own role in this mystery has only just begun. Lupin is not the only one aware of Moretti's disappearance. Elsewhere, in the heart of Venice's forgotten corridors, Inspector Leone Vittori receives word of the smuggler's sudden demise. A Venetian by blood, a hunter by nature, Leone understands that Moretti was no mere casualty. His death is part of something larger, something creeping through the city's underbelly like a slow-moving current. From his modest office overlooking the Grand Canal, Leone pieces together fragments of a puzzle still forming. The twin mirrors, a legend whispered through the ages, a relic of unfathomable value. The House of the Red Lanterns, a den of secrecy, and the last place Moretti was seen alive. The arrival of Arsène Lupin, not a coincidence, but a sign that the game is escalating. Leone knows Lupin's methods. He has spent years dissecting them, anticipating them, only to find himself one step behind, always a fraction too late. But this time, it is different. This time, the stakes are not merely theft and deception. This time, Lupin has wandered into something far older, far deadlier than a simple heist, and Leone is not the only one watching. In the depths of Venice's hidden catacombs, a gathering takes place. Cloaked figures murmur in hushed voices, their words a mixture of reverence and urgency. A candle flickers, illuminating the face of a woman, Madame Valeria, the enigmatic keeper of Venice's oldest secrets. The game has begun, she whispers, her fingers trailing over an intricately carved mirror, its twin missing, its surface clouded with time. She smiles, knowing that Arsène Lupin is already in deeper than he realizes. Venice breathes deception. The city, built upon unstable ground, thrives in illusions, its waters mirroring the sky, its alleyways coiling like a serpent, its masked revelers hiding more than just their faces. Arsène Lupin understands deception better than most, but tonight, even he feels the weight of the unknown pressing against him. Moretti is dead. The message he carried is lost beneath the cold, dark waters of the canal, but the presence Lupin sensed, the silent observer lurking within the mist, confirms a truth he cannot ignore. Someone else is playing this game, and they are already one move ahead. He steps back from the canal's edge, blending into the revelry once more. The Grand Carnival, in all its chaotic beauty, offers the perfect cover. Silken masks, extravagant. Cloaks, laughter, laced with hidden agendas. Venice is a chessboard, and every piece is in motion. Lupin needs to recalibrate, to shift his approach. His destination is clear: the House of the Red Lanterns. The establishment is nestled within a secluded corner of Venice, its entrance guarded by heavy curtains that ripple like liquid gold under the flickering gaslights. To the ordinary eye, it is merely an opulent pleasure house, a place where nobles and criminals alike indulge in secrecy. But beneath its facade lies something far more dangerous. Lupin steps inside, allowing the perfumed
air, thick with opium and whispers, to envelop him.
The rooms are draped in crimson, the light dim, faces obscured by ornate Venetian masks. This is where Moretti received his message. This is where his killer or their accomplice might still linger. Navigating the labyrinthine corridors, Lupin's
mind sharpens. He is not merely searching for a clue, he is watching for movement, listening for hesitation. The slightest shift in demeanor, the wrong choice of words, everything is a tell. Then, amidst the haze of perfume and candlelight, he
notices her. A woman in an elaborate Columbine mask, her gown woven with threads of silver, her posture poised yet guarded. She is waiting, watching, measuring. Lupin approaches casually, his movements fluid, effortless. The game of deception is one he plays well, but as he nears, the woman lifts a delicate hand and slides a folded note into his pocket without a word. Their eyes meet for the briefest moment. Then she is gone, swallowed by the crimson-lit shadows. Lupin does not retrieve the note immediately. Instead, he orders a drink, leans against the velvet-clad bar, and surveys the room with detached
amusement.
The moment he reveals interest, the moment he reacts, he exposes himself. Only when he is certain he is not being observed does he slip the note from his pocket and unfold it beneath the bar. 3 words. Torcello, midnight, alone. A location, a time, a challenge. Lupin allows a smirk to form at the edges of his lips. Whoever is orchestrating this wants control of the game, but control is something Lupin never surrenders willingly. Meanwhile, in a secluded chamber hidden within the Venetian underground, Madame Valeria stands before an ancient mirror. The candlelight barely touches its surface, its twin missing, its presence an echo of something long forgotten. Behind her, the cloaked figures wait in silence. Their voices had spoken earlier, whispering warnings, discussing movements. Lupin has taken the bait, one of them murmurs. Valeria does not turn. Her fingers trace the mirror's edge, its carvings intricate, its history stained with blood and betrayal. He is clever, she acknowledges. But clever men fall the hardest. A pause. A smile, barely visible in the dim light. Let the hunt begin. As the city drowns in celebration, as masks conceal truth and music drowns whispers, Arsène Lupin makes his way toward Torcello. He is aware of the risk, the possibility of a trap. But the thrill of the unknown, the lure of a challenge, it is irresistible. The game is no longer just about the twin mirrors. It is about control. And Lupin, no matter how prepared he is, cannot yet see the full picture, because in Venice, the mirror never reveals just one reflection. Chapter 3. The Raven's Gambit. The canals of Venice twisted like veins beneath the pale glow of the moon, their dark waters reflecting the restless lights of the city's carnival. The masked revelers continued their dance, oblivious to the unseen battles waged within the labyrinth of ancient alleys. Beyond the glittering facades, Arsène Lupin moved like a shadow, his steps precise, his mind racing. The mystery of the twin mirrors had deepened, slipping from intrigue to peril. In the days following the discovery of the coded cipher hidden within the Carnival's ledger, Lupin had pursued every lead with relentless precision. The document, written in an archaic Venetian dialect, hinted at something far more significant than mere treasure, an artifact tied to the city's lost history, concealed by a secret order that had operated in the shadows for centuries. But with each revelation came another layer of deception. The information had been incomplete, fragmented. Someone had tampered with it, ensuring that any pursuer would be led astray. The first crack in the puzzle had surfaced at a forgotten library. Tucked between decaying palazzos, the air inside was thick with the scent of parchment and dust, the silence broken only by the whisper of flickering candlelight. Here, Lupin had found mention of the mirrors, not as mere objects of wealth, but as artifacts of power bound to an ancient conspiracy. The legend spoke of two identical mirrors capable of revealing hidden truths, but their significance remained veiled beneath myth and speculation. Lupin had little time to process the implications before the first sign of pursuit made itself known. A figure, cloaked and masked, had appeared in the reflection of a grand window, watching him with unsettling patience. The moment Lupin moved, the figure vanished, but the message had been clear. He was being hunted. The threat had escalated rapidly. The next night, while navigating the quieter canals under cover of darkness, Lupin had narrowly evaded a carefully set trap. A sudden shift in the gondolier's movements, the subtle tightening of a grip on the oar, Lupin had recognized the telltale signs of an assassin's preparation. With a swift maneuver, he had turned the attack against his would-be assailant, sending the gondola crashing into a mooring post and disappearing before reinforcements could arrive. Now, perched atop a crumbling rooftop, Lupin surveyed the city. Below, the Carnival's festivities roared on, disguising the growing tension beneath its mask of celebration. Somewhere within this city, his enemies were closing in, their intentions unknown, but undoubtedly lethal. The question remained, who was behind the pursuit? The name whispered among informants was Il Corvo, the Raven, a master tactician and unseen force within Venice's criminal underworld. If the mirrors truly existed, the Raven wanted them just as badly as Lupin did. The difference was in the motive. For Lupin, it was a game of intellect, a challenge worth solving. For the Raven, it was something darker, an obsession fueled by power. As the bells of St. Mark's Basilica tolled in the distance, Lupin knew the chase had only just begun. The night deepened, and with it, the tension in the air grew heavier. Lupin descended from the rooftop with practiced ease, his movements a seamless blend of grace and calculation. Venice, with its endless corridors of secrets, had become a dangerous labyrinth where every step carried the risk of discovery. The failed ambush on the gondola had confirmed his suspicions. He was being hunted, but the hunters were still hidden in the shadows. His first objective was clear. He needed to understand the enemy before they could strike again. The name Il Corvo had surfaced, but names were nothing without faces, without intent. The Raven, if he was indeed the mastermind, had remained unseen for too long. That meant power, precision, and a network vast enough to make him nearly untouchable. Lupin had played against invisible adversaries before, but something about this felt different, more personal. Navigating through the winding alleys, he reached a small, candle-lit apothecary on the outskirts of the San Polo district. To the ordinary eye, it was an unassuming shop, its shelves lined with vials of exotic herbs and tinctures. But beneath the surface, it was one of the oldest intelligence hubs in Venice, a place where whispers carried more value than gold. The owner, an elderly woman known simply as Madame Belladonna, greeted Lupin with a knowing glance. Her frail hands adjusted the silk scarf around her shoulders as she leaned in, her voice a hushed murmur. "They were here," she said, her tone laced with caution. "Men in masks, speaking in half-truths. They asked about you, about the mirrors." Lupin remained expressionless, but inwardly he processed the information with rapid precision. If they had been here, then Il Corvo's men were closer than he had thought. "What did you tell them?" he asked. Madame Belladonna smiled faintly, reaching for a small wooden box behind the counter. With a delicate touch, she slid it toward him. "That you were already dead." Lupin smirked. "And they believed you?" "They wanted to," she replied. "But something tells me they know better." Inside the box was a folded parchment, sealed with dark red wax. The emblem stamped into it was unmistakable, a raven with outstretched wings. Carefully, Lupin broke the seal and read the message inside. The handwriting was elegant, deliberate. "We see you, Lupin. Run while you still can." A challenge, a warning, or perhaps both. Lupin let out a slow breath, folding the letter as his mind pieced together the implications. Il Corvo wasn't just hunting him, he was toying with him, testing his patience. But why? What was it about the mirrors that held such significance? The answer, Lupin realized, would not be found in secret letters or whispered rumors. If he wanted the truth, he would have to step directly into the lion's den. And that meant letting Il Corvo believe that he was the one being played. The gondola moved silently along the dark waters of the Grand Canal, its oars cutting through the stillness with a rhythmic precision. Lupin sat at the stern, his thoughts a tangled web of possibilities. The note from Il Corvo had been a deliberate provocation, but Lupin knew better than to be baited. Instead, he would use it as an opportunity, an invitation to step deeper, into the mystery rather than away from it. The twin mirrors of Venice were no longer just objects of intrigue. They were the centerpiece of a dangerous game, one where the stakes were rising with every passing hour. But why? What hidden value did they hold beyond their historical worth? His contact in Venice, a cunning art dealer named Marcello Vitale, had promised information, and that was where Lupin was headed. Marcello was a man with no allegiances. He sold knowledge like priceless relics, offering it to the highest bidder. Tonight, however, Lupin intended to ensure that he was the only bidder who mattered. As the gondola drifted under the Rialto Bridge, a flicker of movement on the walkway above caught Lupin's sharp gaze. A figure barely visible in the dim lantern, light, watching. He didn't react. Panic was the enemy of survival. Instead, he subtly adjusted his posture, preparing for the possibility that this meeting was no longer just about gathering information. It could very well be a trap. Arriving at Marcello's villa in Dorsoduro, Lupin stepped off the gondola and into the courtyard. The air smelled of aged parchment and the faint aroma of saffron incense. Inside, the grand hall was as he remembered it, lined with stolen artifacts, half-forgotten masterpieces, and relics whose origins were known only to their collector. Marcello awaited him in the center of the room, dressed in a silk robe embroidered with golden filigree. His face, always amused, bore an expression of careful intrigue. "You never come empty-handed, Lupin," he mused, swirling a glass of Venetian red wine. "Tell me, what game are we playing tonight?" Lupin didn't waste time on pleasantries. He pulled out the folded note and tossed it onto the table. "Il Corvo is watching, and he wants me to know it." Marcello's smirk faltered ever so slightly. He picked up the note, examining the emblem. "So it's true then, the raven has returned." Lupin's gaze sharpened. "Returned?" Marcello hesitated, but only for a moment. Il Corvo isn't just a name, it's a legacy. The man behind it changes, but the power remains. The last Corvo disappeared years ago, and now, it seems, another has risen. Lupin processed this revelation swiftly. The enemy he faced wasn't just an individual, it was an entity, a myth reborn that made things far more complicated. "Tell me about the mirrors," Lupin pressed. "Why do they want them?" Marcello sighed, setting down his wine glass. "Because, my friend, they are not just mirrors, they are keys." A chill ran down Lupin's spine. Keys to what? Lupin processed Marcello's words with the precision of a master strategist. The twin mirrors weren't just relics, they were keys. But to what? A vault? A secret passage? Or something far more valuable? Information. The weight of the revelation settled heavily, but there was no time to dwell. The answers lay within the depths of Venice's most secretive society, and if Il Corvo had resurfaced, the masquerade ball at the Palazzo Belladonna would be his stage. The Venetian masquerade was an annual event, shrouded in opulence and deception. Every influential figure, from politicians to underground syndicate leaders, would be present, each concealed behind intricate masks, their identities lost to the night. It was the perfect place for deals, betrayals, and secrets exchanged in whispers. And tonight, Lupin would be among them. Slipping into a tailored midnight blue ensemble, he adorned a mask of silver and black, its design mimicking the beak of a raven, a deliberate challenge to Il Corvo's claim to the city. If Corvo was watching, Lupin wanted him to know that the game had truly begun. The Palazzo Belladonna loomed ahead, its marble facade illuminated by the flickering glow of torches. Chandeliers cast golden reflections on the water, and the air buzzed with the melodies of a hidden orchestra. The scent of aged wine, perfume, and candle wax filled the halls as guests danced, whispered, and schemed. Lupin moved with practiced ease, his presence unnoticed in the sea of masked figures. His first objective was clear: locate the mirror's last known owner, Duchess Isabella Rinaldi, a collector of rare artifacts with deep ties to Venice's most elusive figures. If anyone knew why Il Corvo wanted the mirrors, it would be her. He spotted her near the balcony, draped in crimson silk, her golden mask concealing everything but her calculating eyes. But just as he prepared to approach, a ripple of movement in the crowd caught his attention, a masked figure in black, standing perfectly still, watching him. The presence was unmistakable, Il Corvo's agent, or perhaps Il Corvo himself. Lupin made a choice. He pivoted, slipping into the throng of dancers, weaving through the shifting bodies with fluid precision. If the Corvo operative was here, then so was the real danger. He needed to draw them out, gliding toward a table lined with crystal goblets. He deliberately reached for a glass, a silent signal, a call to engage. The masked figure responded in kind, taking a glass from across the room, mirroring Lupin's every move. A game of silent communication had begun. Then, a whisper from behind. Marcello's voice. "You're not the only one hunting tonight, my friend." Lupin didn't turn. He didn't have to. Somewhere in the palazzo, Il Corvo was waiting. Chapter 4. The Masquerade of Shadows. Lupin felt the weight of the masquerade pressing in. Too many eyes, too many hidden agendas. The grand hall pulsed with opulence, yet beneath, the sheen of golden chandeliers and polished marble, deception thrived. The masked figure across the room, the one who mirrored his every move, remained unnervingly still, a spectre in the masquerade's elaborate theatre.
Was it Il Corvo himself, or a mere emissary? Marcello's whisper lingered in Lupin's mind. "You're not the only one hunting tonight." That meant others were in play. But who? And for what purpose? He didn't have to wait long for an answer.
Flicker of movement, too fast, too deliberate, and suddenly the masked figure was gone, vanished into the sea of revelers. Lupin followed, navigating the shifting bodies, the swirling silks and gilded costumes, the scent of champagne and secrecy, thick in the air. Then he saw her. Duchess Isabella Rinaldi. She stood by a secluded archway, her crimson gown a stark contrast against the ivory walls. Her golden mask reflected the candlelight, unreadable yet knowing. Unlike the others in the room, she wasn't watching the dancers. She was watching the exits. Lupin approached with measured confidence, his own mask concealing the smirk that tugged at his lips. She was expecting someone, but not him. Before he could speak, she turned sharply, her voice low but firm. "You should not be here." Test. He exhaled slowly, measuring his response. He could play the part of an ignorant guest, but Isabella was no fool. Instead, he leaned against the marble railing, studying her with amused detachment. "Strange, I was about to say the same to you." A pause. Then, ever so slightly, her lips curled into a knowing smirk. Recognition? A hint that she understood exactly who he was. But before the game of words could continue, the atmosphere shifted. A sudden, sharp crash, a goblet shattering against the marble. The masquerade's rhythm faltered for the briefest moment. Conversations hushed, eyes darted. A fleeting second of tension before the music swelled once more, as if nothing had happened. But Lupin knew better. His instincts sharpened. Something
had just changed. Then he felt it. A presence. Close. He turned just in time to catch a glimpse of the masked figure slipping through an ornate doorway. A deliberate invitation. His pulse quickened. He was being lured. But by whom? And why?
He glanced back at Isabella, but she was already stepping away, her voice barely above a whisper, a final warning. "If you value your life, thief, do not follow." But Lupin had never been one to resist temptation. The masked figure disappeared through the ornate doorway, leaving behind only the faintest whisper of movement. Lupin hesitated for no more than a breath before following. The masquerade's golden glow dimmed behind him as he stepped into a shadowed corridor, narrow, winding, and treacherous. The air shifted. The scent of aged parchment and candle wax replaced the intoxicating blend of wine and perfume. This was no ordinary passage. It was part of the palazzo's hidden architecture, an ancient network of corridors that had witnessed centuries of whispered betrayals. His every step was calculated. He wasn't alone. A flicker of movement to the left, the rustle of fabric, the faintest click of a shoe against stone. Someone was leading him deeper. He trailed the shadow through the winding maze, his gloved fingers brushing against the cold
walls. The palazzo was revealing its secrets, but at what cost? Then the air shifted again. A door ahead, slightly ajar. Candlelight flickered within.
A deliberate invitation. Lupin pressed forward, but as soon as he crossed the threshold, the door slammed shut behind him. No turning back. The room was smaller than expected, an old study, walls lined with antique maps, nautical charts and cryptic documents. A heavy desk dominated the space, its surface cluttered with quills, ink bottles, and an open ledger filled with strange, looping script. But it was the mirror that caught his eye. A massive, gilded mirror, its glass so pristine it almost seemed liquid. An exact twin to the one he had seen in the archives. The second half of the legend, the twin mirrors of Venice. For a moment, the room seemed to breathe around him, as if the very walls held their own pulse. This was no ordinary artifact. Then, footsteps. Slow, deliberate, controlled. Lupin didn't turn immediately. He waited, reading the room, anticipating the game before it was played. Then a voice, smooth as silk, but laced with quiet menace. "You've come far, Lupin, but do you truly understand what you're chasing?" He turned, his reflection briefly warping in the mirror's surface as he faced Il Corvo, the elusive ghost of Venice, the puppet master, the man who had spent years weaving this web of deception. Lupin studied him in the flickering candlelight. The mask remained, but the presence beneath it was unmistakable. Il Corvo carried himself with the ease of someone who had always been in control, every move calculated, every word deliberate. And then, with a slow, almost mocking tilt of his head, Il Corvo reached into his coat, producing an old weathered key. He set it down atop the desk, an offering.
"A challenge! A warning! You found the mirror," Il Corvo said, voice unreadable. "But do you know what it truly reveals?" And just like that, the game had changed. The steel pressed cold against Lupin's neck, steady and unyielding. Not a threat, a promise. He didn't move. He didn't need to.
There were moments in life where instinct dictated survival, and this was one of them. The voice behind him, familiar, yet now sharpened by betrayal, spoke again. Step away from the mirror. Lupin exhaled slowly, his mind working in overdrive. Every heist, every deception, every close call had taught him that trust was an illusion, a mask people wore until the moment it no longer suited them. And now someone within his own circle had decided to cast theirs aside. His voice remained, calm, almost amused. "I assume you've thought this through?" The gun didn't waver. "I have." Lupin's gaze remained fixed on the mirror before him. It still wasn't reflecting the room correctly. Something about it felt off, as if reality itself bent around it, twisting and reshaping in ways unseen. Who was truly in control here? He
needed time. A single second. A fraction of hesitation. His instincts provided it. From the far corner of the chamber, a draft whispered through the hidden passageway, causing the candlelight to flicker.
For just a moment, the betrayer's shadow wavered. Lupin moved. With practiced precision, he twisted, knocking the barrel of the gun aside as he pivoted. The shot rang out, deafening in the enclosed space. Sparks flew as the bullet ricocheted.
Off the stone wall, a struggle ensued. Quick, efficient, brutal.
Lupin's grip found his attacker's wrist, twisting until the weapon was released, clattering onto the ancient floor. But before he could regain full control, the traitor lashed out, a sharp jab to his ribs, sending him stumbling backward, dangerously close to the mirror's surface. Lupin's reflection warped. distorting his own image. His twin within the glass looked back, a moment behind, as if reluctant to follow. Then, an eerie shift. For the briefest of moments, the reflection didn't mimic his movements. It smirked, not his smirk. Someone else's. Lupin's breath caught in his throat. A presence lurked within the mirror. Watching, waiting, he didn't have time to process it. The betrayer lunged again, but this time Lupin was ready. He sidestepped, using his attacker's momentum against them, sending them crashing into the pedestal. The second mirror trembled, and then a crack. A single fracture splintered across, the glass like lightning splitting the night sky. The room seemed to inhale, the very air distorting, bending. A low, unnatural hum vibrated through the walls, resonating in Lupin's bones. Something had changed. Something had been unleashed. Lupin's eyes darted to the fallen gun, but before he could reach it, a sudden force yanked him backward toward the mirror. And in that final second, before darkness consumed him, he saw the reflection smirk once more. But this time, it wasn't him, falling. Lupin felt himself being pulled, not just through space, but through something deeper, something intangible. The mirror was no mere artifact, it was a gateway. The sensation was like being yanked through water without resistance. His body weightless, his mind caught between past and present. For a moment, there was nothing. Then, impact. He hit the ground, hard, his limbs sprawled against smooth, icy marble. The silence was suffocating. No gunfire, no betrayer, no whisper of the Venetian winds. Only the slow realization that he was somewhere else, somewhere wrong. Lupin pushed himself up, his fingers trailing along the floor's polished surface. It was identical to the chamber he had just left, yet distorted. The air carried a strange hum, low and resonant, like the lingering vibration of a struck tuning fork. The flickering candlelight cast shadows, but the flames didn't move. And then he saw it, his own reflection, not in a mirror, but standing before him. Lupin froze. The man was identical in every way, height, build, the slight tilt of his smirk. But something was off. The reflection moved toward him, deliberate and unhurried. His own face, yet not his own eyes. A twin, but not a twin. Lupin's breath was steady, his mind calculating. If this was a trick, he needed to understand its rules. His double studied him, amusement flickering across his features. When he spoke, his voice carried an eerie echo, as if layered upon itself. "You shouldn't have come here." Lupin's muscles coiled in quiet tension. "Believe me, I had no intention of visiting." The twin tilted his head. "And yet you did." Lupin took in his surroundings once more. Everything was a mirror image, but the details were slightly corrupted. The walls bore paintings he had never seen. The air smelled faintly of something metallic, something ancient. It was as if this place had existed in secret, waiting for him. The twin took a slow step forward. Lupin didn't move. He had played enough games to know that the first mistake was revealing fear. "You are the last piece," the twin murmured, his voice a whisper beneath the hum of the chamber. The final echo in a story, centuries in the making. Lupin raised a brow. Flattering, but cryptic. "Do you always greet your guests this way?" A flicker of a smile, but this time it didn't reach the twin's eyes. Then, the room shifted. The hall shadows stretched unnaturally, twisting toward him, reaching. The very air warped. Lupin knew when to fight and when to run. This was a time to run. He turned sharply, but the twin was faster. A hand, his own hand, shot out and gripped his wrist, and in that instant, Lupin saw something behind the twin's gaze, a truth that should have remained hidden. Lupin's wrist burned where the twin's fingers gripped him. It wasn't a physical pain, but something deeper, something more invasive. For the first time in his life, he felt himself being unmade, his mind splintered between past and present, between himself and the stranger wearing his face. Memories bled into memories, Paris rooftops, whispered names, stolen secrets, all unraveling as if something was trying to rewrite him. He wrenched his arm free, stumbling backward. The twin didn't follow. He only smiled. You feel it. Don't.
You? The voice was calm, patient. The truth pressing in. Lupin steadied himself.
Truth was a weapon, but only if wielded correctly. His breath came slow and measured. You're trying to unsettle me, the twin's eyes gleamed. Am I? Lupin turned, scanning the chamber. No doors, no exits, no mirrors except the one that had pulled him here. But then he saw something he had missed before. A grand gilded frame hung on the farthest wall, its glass dark and depthless. Unlike the others, it did not reflect him. He moved toward it cautiously. The twin did not stop him. As Lupin drew closer, his pulse quickened. The frame's carvings were ancient, curling like vines around a Latin inscription, Duo specula, unum, destinatum. 2 mirrors, 1 fate. The weight of realization settled in his chest. The twin mirrors were never just objects. They were never meant to be stolen or sold. They were meant to divide, to test, to reveal. Lupin turned back to the twin, but this time he looked beyond the resemblance. The twin had no shadow, no breath, no past. He was not a reflection. He was a replacement. The chamber's hum grew louder. The moment of decision was here. Lupin exhaled sharply, shifting his stance. He had spent his life slipping through impossible escapes. This would be no different. The twin stepped forward, but Lupin was already moving. A quick pivot, a precise calculation. He lunged for the dark mirror. The air rippled around him, cold and electric, as the twin reached out. Too late. Lupin collided with the glass and the world shattered. The impact was unlike anything Lupin had ever experienced. It wasn't a collision, it was a passage. For a fleeting moment he felt weightless, suspended in a void where time had no meaning. The chamber, the twin, the carnival, they all blurred into a distorted, liquid haze. It was as if he were falling into the depths of his own reflection, splintering into fragments before being pulled back together. Then he landed. His boots met solid ground. The sensation of gravity rushed back into his limbs, anchoring him to reality once more. But the world around him was different. He stood in a vast open hall, a mirror image of the chamber he had just escaped from, but subtly altered. The walls, though adorned with the same intricate carvings, seemed aged, as if time had worn them down unevenly. The chandeliers above flickered with an otherworldly glow, casting elongated shadows that moved unnaturally. A cold, metallic scent filled the air, faint but undeniable, like silver tarnished by time. This was not the same Venice he had left. A soft whisper drifted through the hall, not from a single voice, but many, a layered murmur, overlapping echoes of words he could not yet decipher. Then ahead of him, a lone figure stood in the dim light. Not the twin. Someone else. Lupin's eyes adjusted, taking in the details. A man in a dark, high-collared coat, his posture rigid yet eerily composed. His hands were clasped behind his back, his head tilted slightly, as if observing Lupin with detached curiosity. Lupin took a step forward. The air itself seemed to resist his movement, pressing against him like an unseen force. The figure finally spoke. His voice was calm, deliberate. You weren't supposed to make it through. Lupin exhaled sharply, already calculating. He didn't know this man, but he knew his type. A puppet master, a manipulator, someone who thrived on control. The realization settled in his mind like a puzzle piece, snapping into place. The twin had never been the real adversary. This man was, and then the mirrors lining the hall began to shift. Their glassy surfaces rippled like disturbed water, and from within them figures emerged. Some wore masks of Venetian revelers, their eyes hollow and empty. Others bore faces Lupin recognized, faces of those he had bested, betrayed, or outwitted in the past. Ghosts of his own history. A trap. Not one of locks or steel, but of perception and fear. The true test had begun. Lupin clenched his jaw, his mind working at an impossible speed. This wasn't just about escape anymore. This was about survival. The mirrors continued to shift, bending reality, distorting movement. Every step forward felt like stepping through liquid, an unseen force pushing back. The figures that had emerged from the glass now encircled him, their presence more than illusion. Their shadows stretched unnaturally, merging with the darkness pooling along the marble floor. Lupin knew he couldn't trust his senses. The game was no longer about what was real, but what he believed to be real. A gloved hand reached out from me, one of the mirrors, fingers curling toward him like claws. The past clawing at the present. Lupin sidestepped, but the ground beneath him shifted. A cruel trick. The floor now mirrored the sky, and for an instant he felt as if he were falling upward, gravity abandoning him. Then, in a blink, the sensation was gone. His feet were planted firmly again, but his surroundings had changed. The hall was gone. The chandeliers, the carvings, all erased. He now stood in a dimly lit corridor, walls lined with faceless statues, draped in heavy velvet. The scent of aged parchment and candle wax filled the air. Ahead, the figure in the high-collared coat still stood, unmoved by the shifting world. His voice, when it came again, was steady, knowing. "Do you understand now, Monsieur Lupin?" Lupin's fingers curled into fists. He understood one thing. He had been led here deliberately, and now he had to uncover why. Chapter 5. The vanishing hourglass. Lupin steadied himself, the weight of unseen forces pressing against his instincts. This place, this twisted reflection of Venice, was a prison of perception, designed to unmake him. The man in the high-collared coat stood motionless, watching, waiting. Lupin had spent his life slipping through the fingers of those who sought to control him. But this time, he wasn't merely running or stealing, he was fighting an enemy who existed beyond the tangible, someone who had rewritten the rules of the game. He needed to change the rules again. He exhaled sharply, forcing himself to focus.
Not on the shifting corridors, not on the mirrored phantoms clawing at his past, but on the one constant in this reality, the man before him. Why? Lupin finally asked, his voice steady, calculated. He needed information before he made his
move. The man's lips curled slightly. Because you were never meant to be here. You were meant to be a pawn. Instead, you became an anomaly. Lupin's mind raced. This wasn't about the mirrors. It wasn't even about the heist anymore. This was about something much older, much deeper. The twin, the hidden forces manipulating events, the ghosts of Venice's past. Everything pointed to a singular truth. This was about legacy. His own. The statues lining the corridor seemed to shift, their velvet drapes rippling as if stirred by an unseen breeze. Shadows pooled beneath them, stretching, crawling. The man stepped forward, slow and deliberate. You believe yourself to be the master of deception, the orchestrator of perfect illusions. But tell me, Lupin, what happens when the illusion is you? Lupin's heartbeat quickened. Not from fear, but from recognition. A final test. This wasn't about escaping. It was about proving he existed. If this world was built on perception, then perception was his greatest weapon. Lupin took a step forward. His reflection in the nearest mirror flickered, hesitated, as if uncertain. He smirked. That was all the confirmation he needed. The rules weren't fixed, they were fluid. He had spent his life crafting identities, shifting between personas, bending reality to his will. Now he would do the same to this prison. The man in the coat saw the change in his stance, the glint in his eyes. Something unreadable flickered across his face. Lupin lifted a hand and snapped his fingers. The sound echoed unnaturally, stretching through the mirrored halls like a ripple in time. The world around him responded, the statues trembled, the corridors blurred. Lupin took another step. The ground beneath him solidified, the mirrored phantoms wavered. The illusion, whoever had crafted it, was losing control. The man in the coat narrowed his eyes. Interesting. Lupin tilted his head. You built this trap believing I would play by your rules, but you forgot one thing. The flickering reflections distorted wildly now, their images breaking apart into shards of light. The mirage was collapsing. Lupin smiled. There's no lock I can't pick. And with that, he moved. a blur of motion, a sleight of hand, a trick so seamless even the world itself struggled to keep up. The mirrors shattered, every single one. A rush of wind surged through the corridor, as if the entire realm exhaled in defeat. The statues crumbled into dust, the walls trembled, and then a doorway appeared, not one of glass, nor illusion, a real doorway. An exit. Lupin didn't hesitate. He ran. Behind him, the man in the coat remained standing, watching the collapse of his carefully constructed labyrinth, unmoved, unbothered. And as Lupin passed through the doorway, leaving the fractured world behind, he heard one final whisper. "You're still playing my game, Lupin."
Lupin stumbled forward as the transition hit him like a wave, the fragmented world dissolving into something solid beneath his feet. Reality reasserted itself. But had he truly escaped? The air was thick with the scent of damp stone and burning
Oil. A grand hall loomed before him, its towering candelabras casting long, trembling shadows. At the room's center, atop an ornate marble dais, rested the twin mirrors of Venice, finally within his grasp, or so it seemed. Lupin's instincts screamed at him. Too easy, too perfect. He had spent his life dismantling illusions, and this felt like the final, cruelest trick of all. His fingers brushed the hilt of his cane, muscles coiled. A trap lay hidden beneath this moment, waiting for him to step forward. But hesitation was a luxury he couldn't afford. A slow, deliberate clap echoed through the chamber. From the shadows emerged a figure Lupin had been expecting. And yet, the reality of their presence still sent a jolt through him. The twin, not identical, in stature, in gait, in the effortless elegance of their movement. The only difference was in the eyes, where Lupin's gleamed with mischief and intelligence, the others burned with something colder, more calculating. Fascinating, the twin mused, voice rich with amusement. You really are everything they feared you'd become. Lupin smirked, though his mind was already 3 steps ahead, piecing together the truth. He knew deception. He understood facades. But this wasn't just a copy. It was a refinement. The twin was the version of him that the hidden forces had sculpted, their own perfected illusion, a ghost of him, built to replace him. This was the real heist, the true deception, and the moment Lupin took those mirrors, the world would believe his twin was him.
"Ah," Lupin exhaled, tilting his head, letting the revelation settle. "So that's the trick. Take the prize and I disappear, not just from this room, but from history itself." His twin smiled, slow and knowing. "A magician's best illusion is the one the audience never questions." Lupin let out a breathless laugh. Oh, this was exquisite, a game played at the highest level.
But they had underestimated one thing. The real Arsène Lupin never played by anyone else's rules. The twin stepped forward, mirroring his stance. "It's already over," they murmured. "You've already lost." Lupin's eyes flicked to the mirrors.
No, not yet. His mind raced through every scenario, every possible escape.
He didn't need to fight. He needed to rewrite the trick itself. He took a slow step forward, gaze unwavering. "Then let's make this a proper show, shall we?" The twin smiled. "I was hoping you'd say that." And then they moved. The twin lunged. First, fluid, precise, a perfect mirror of Lupin's own movements. The air between them crackled with tension, 2 versions of the same legend locked in a dance of deception. Lupin twisted away at the last second, his coat flaring as he spun, narrowly dodging the razor-sharp edge of a concealed blade. His twin was faster than expected, sharper, but not him. The real Arsène Lupin didn't fight fair. He feinted right, then dropped low, sweeping his leg out. The twin anticipated it, flipping backward with inhuman grace, but that was exactly what Lupin had counted on, too perfect, too controlled. "Not bad," Lupin mused, straightening. "But you lack one thing, mon ami," the twin smirked. "And what's that?" Lupin grinned. "Chaos." With a flick of his wrist, he triggered the mechanism hidden in his cane. Smoke erupted into the chamber, thick and blinding, swallowing the twin's vision. Lupin moved like a phantom through the haze, snatching up the twin mirrors of Venice in a single, fluid motion. Their weight was heavier than he expected, their surfaces glimmering with an unnatural sheen. A deafening crack split the air. Gunfire. Lupin ducked instinctively as a bullet whizzed past his ear, shattering a candelabra behind him. Through the swirling smoke, he saw the twin emerging unscathed, gun in hand, eyes dark with amusement. "They told me you'd be unpredictable," the twin mused, voice barely above a whisper. "But I was made to be better than you." Lupin sighed. "Well then, this is going to be disappointing for you." He reached into his pocket, fingers closing around the tiny mechanical trigger he had slipped onto the mirrors the moment he touched.
Them. The twins' gaze flicked downward, just as the mirrors exploded in a dazzling burst of light and glass. For the briefest moment, time seemed to fracture.
The magic within the mirrors, the energy they had absorbed over centuries, unleashed in a swirling cascade of reflections, warping reality itself. The twins staggered back, caught between illusions, trapped within the endless cascade of mirrored selves. Lupin didn't wait to see what happened next. He ran. Through the smoke, past the collapsing chandeliers, out into the moonlit corridors of the palazzo. Behind him, he heard the twins scream, a sound of rage, of defiance, of something unraveling. The mirrors were gone. The illusion shattered, and, with it, the perfect replica of Arsène Lupin. Bursting onto the Venetian rooftops, Lupin inhaled the crisp night air. Below, the grand carnival raged on, masks and laughter, oblivious to the game of shadows playing out above. He allowed himself a moment to revel in it. The greatest heist was never about the prize, it was about the deception, the perfect trick, and tonight he had won. With a final, knowing grin, Arsène Lupin vanished into the night. Thank you for tuning in to Café Stories. If you enjoyed the intrigue and suspense, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon to stay updated on more captivating adventures. Your support keeps the stories coming and the mysteries alive. Until next time, stay curious, stay sharp, and keep the mystery alive.